am so super excited to be sitting with my friend, Dr. Quantrilla Ard, and we're going to jump right into the conversation. Can you tell us about a time that you experienced Black woman grief?
Man, I have several different stories, but I think I will start off with this prominent story because really it is what shaped a lot of what I do when I speak and write and things of that nature. My first son, 15 years old now, but I developed preeclampsia, a severe form of preeclampsia with him when I was pregnant, and I just did not see myself having to navigate such a traumatic birth experience, especially for my very first experience right out of the gate. And I had been doing research around Black maternal health in my PhD program. And I recognized that amongst my peer group, there were other Black women professionals, doctors, lawyers, teachers, higher education, and we were all kind of having babies around the same time. And we all had some type of negative birth outcome, whether it was preterm delivery or low birth weight or some type of birth injury, right? And so for me, when I experienced this particular trauma, it was already difficult to be in this space, right? But it was more difficult to try to downplay or hide my feelings and emotions because I did not want to be seen as a difficult patient. And I knew based on things that I had read for research and had really been engaging in my work that Black women are less likely to be believed that they're in pain. They're less likely to be treated equally in the healthcare space. And so here I was in one of the most vulnerable positions in my entire life. And I was not listened to, I was not believed, and I felt myself being cut open during my cesarean. And that trauma in and of itself, the physical trauma was hard enough, but the emotional and psychological trauma, the fact that I kept telling people, "Oh, I could feel something, I could feel something, I could feel something," and I was constantly dismissed until I started screaming and hollering, when I felt
Oh,
myself being cut open. That grief, that trauma still resides in my body, and even though I am processing it by sharing my story and becoming an advocate for Black maternal health, it is still very much something that has shaped my view of the world. And honestly, I think about how that doesn't just sit with me, but I also have a daughter. And my daughter, who hears those stories, who hears me share those stories, is now, developing her own ideas about the world. I remember one day she told me, "Well, mommy, I'm gonna just go ahead and adopt." And I was like, "Okay, that's great. We love adoption." I said, "So what made you think of adoption?" And she says, "Well, I just don't want to go through what you went."
oh my.
And so it was like the secondary grief, right? It was the compounded grief of my own grief now impacting my child. But yeah, that was one of my most prominent Black woman grief stories.
Yeah. Wow. 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 That is so powerful, so traumatic. And I don't know, I think this is the first time I heard this story. Like, I know that you're a big, huge proponent and advocate for Black maternal health. My goodness. And just to think of how many are listening, who will be listening to this, who have experienced similar situations and not really having any hope of navigating through the trauma. Like you said, you still hold that in your body.
I did.
So this is where we're at. We're jumping
Yeah,
in. We are
yeah.
jumping in, and this is so powerful. Again, I just thank you for sharing that. So can you share a moment in your life when you first felt the weight of the strong Black woman stereotype?
I will say watching my mother, growing up, watching her carry a lot of the weight of the household. It wasn't just the normal typical things that we assign to the wife or the mom, but I realized that my mom was really carrying much more than that. She was the oldest child. She's the oldest girl. She's the daughter. And at the time I really started to see her, my grandmother was ill. So she was carrying the weight of her own grief, watching her own mom pass away and be sick. And then she was trying to navigate just a changing environment. She was working hard. And I think I started to understand a lot of what I saw the coping mechanism that she used. Some were healthy, some were very unhealthy. And when I talk a lot about grief, this is one of the things I talk about. Like, how do we observe the folks that we love and the people that are around us? How do we observe grief? How do we learn to grieve, right? It's typically from a parent or a friend or someone who means something to us, right? So we are watching them and we kind of get our framework from them. So I would say it started really when I was younger, watching my mom and noticing that even though she created a loving and happy environment for me growing up, I was still very much aware that my mother's life was steeped in grief
Mhm.
and grief of all kinds. So, yeah, I think I could pinpoint it very, very early in
Mhm.
growing up.
Mhm. So I want to ask, how did it shape you? But you kind of touched on that a little bit because we're learning, we're observing, and we're learning from our mom.
Mhm,
Learn from your
mhm.
mom. So how did that experience shape you? Just saying, when you began to experience loss, even in losing her, do you feel it shaped you in some way?
Absolutely. I think maybe in the recesses of my mind, I connected her grief to her passing. I still ask God all the time, like, could it be that the weight of her grief was so heavy that she just could not continue living with it?
Mhm.
And this is something that I don't know if we often get into, when we're talking about grief. Like, we've heard of things like broken heart syndrome, right? We know that that phenomenon exists.
Yeah.
And I feel like looking back, I can see how the weight of what she carried exacerbated her health concerns. She did have a terminal illness, but in my head, I'm like, "Whoa, if she wasn't also carrying such a heavy load of grief, could she have survived it? Could
Mhm.
she have had a better quality of life? Could she have been here to see her grandchildren grow up? Could she have been here for all the milestones that we missed?" And so that definitely shaped me in the fact that I don't think I was as open to my grief initially. I tried to dismiss it. I tried to, if I can just pretend it's not happening to me. Yes, this great loss happened, but I'm just going to keep moving forward and trying to do the best I can. And by ignoring my grief, by dismissing it, it only made it worse. And I realized that there had to be a different way, a healthier way to navigate my grief in a way where I wasn't ignoring it, that I was giving it the room and the space that it needed, because the road and the journey that I was on wasn't healthy either, right? It's not healthy to dismiss your grief. It's not healthy to ignore it. But I was so terrified of being on the opposite end of the spectrum, letting it consume me so that I wouldn't be here for my children, right? So I tried to just shove it in a box and hide it in the closet. But that didn't work either. So I started to ask God to reveal to me, what was I missing? What were the missing pieces of being a griever and still being able to live a full quality life despite my grief? So it absolutely shaped me.
Yeah.
And it really pushed me to dig in and to identify what was gonna work. How was I going to continue my mother's legacy in a healthier way?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love that. You said so much. It's so powerful. Just in, I wanted to touch on or go back to how we as Black women carry so much. And in caring so much, I mean, research has shown us that it affects our health.
absolutely.
And, grief being one of those things, because when you were talking, it reminded me of like my sisters, how I have, similar questions. Even with my dad, I have those similar questions. Like, and had they dealt with grief, lot of trauma, a lot of trauma,
Yeah,
would they have been here? I haven't spent that much research in connecting all those dots, but I believe it had a big impact, like with not dealing with trauma that could possibly affect the health and bring in disease and things in our bodies.
yeah,
But yeah, so just want to put out there, even now with those who are listening, the importance of navigating, processing, sitting with our grief, our trauma, and even experiencing this loss and processing the loss of your mom in a healthier way. That's going to help you be here for your kid.
that's right.
We are going to pass this information along to our kids
Yeah,
so that we can help them to live healthier emotional lives as well.
definitely.
Well, so, how do you navigate moments when you're expected to embody that strength, but you're just tired? Because a lot of us have been to the point of being tired of being sick and tired. So, how do you navigate those moments when you're expected to embody that strength, but you're just tired or just vulnerable?
One of the ways I think I'm trying to do that is to set boundaries and really speak up for myself. I would say it's easier, but maybe it's not to just go along with whatever people expect of you and not ruffle feathers, make waves. But that doesn't hurt anybody but you. Everyone else gets what they need. And at the end of the day, you're left holding the bag, right? So I did not like how I was feeling after those types of situations and circumstances. So I had to create boundaries. If there was a scenario in which I started to realize that people were expecting me to show up and be the hero, I was like, I'm so sorry. I can't sacrifice myself. There's a saying, it's like you don't set yourself on fire so that everybody else can be warm, right? And even if it's something as small as saying, no, I can't do that. And that's for me a really hard thing because I desire to be the one that helps everyone, the peacemaker, trying to make sure everything goes well, but often to my own peril. I'd be up all hours of the night, or I'd be the one, doing things long after folks have long gone, right? And showing up in that way kind of tears us down.
Yeah.
It wears us down. There's this concept called weathering, and it specifically applies to Black women, right? And it's this concept that you don't get your needs met. You're constantly in a state of, negative arousal. You're constantly under stress, and it tears your body down at a cellular level, right? And this is what I see in this, superwoman schema that Black women have. I don't think I asked for it, but it's something that we all can relate to, right?
Yeah.
So it's this thing that it's this almost like a unwanted gift we've been given, right?
Right.
And we just accept it time and time again. We're like, well, if nobody else is going to do it, I'm going to do it, right? If nobody else takes care of it, I'm going to take care of it. But that lifestyle is not sustainable and it wears our body down. And so when I started to notice that I was always sick, not feeling well, not sleeping, because I was trying to carry this weight, I started to create boundaries. And sometimes that boundary was as simple as saying, I can't do that. Or as simple as when everybody's asking for someone to step up and lead, you stay quiet. That- Right. Or something as simple as, you know, folks expecting you to show up or present in a certain way and you excusing yourself because you need a moment or a series of moments. Or maybe you decide that your present being in that place is not worth your peace. So you don't go. And it's difficult because that is not most of our factory settings are like, let's go do this, boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom. So it's hard to practice taking care of yourself well, but we have to do it.
Yeah.
We have to do it.
I love this so much because these are the conversations that we need in our ear, like over and over, almost like, I mean, we literally need to keep hearing this because I feel like most often we know it.
We
Like
do.
we know, but it's the doing part that's so hard. Because
Exactly.
when you're talking, I'm like, yep, yep, yep. Last year was like one of the first years, and I'll say even like the latter part of the year where I really started implementing some boundaries. And it made a world of difference.
Yeah.
It made a world of difference. And so, when we're talking about it, it's almost like we need to have somebody hold us accountable.
Listen,
And I
first of all, we need permission, right?
oh my god,
And then we also need somebody to hold us accountable. I agree.
that's so those listening even now, you have permission to
You
set
have to.
boundaries. You have permission. Yeah. And then you reach out to me and Kwani for the
That's all right. We're going to check. Are you taking care of yourself today? Have you said
yeah,
no at least once today? Listen.
right. So this question, what do you think society needs to do to deconstruct or even give as Black women to give us even as Black women to reframe the strong Black woman stereotype? Yeah, to give us more space to show up, as our
Yeah.
authentic self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's this unspoken rule that if you want something done right, you ask a Black woman, right? Step up. Like, don't let that be the status quo. If you want something done right, step up and do it, right? There should be supports for Black women that exist in every space where she does not have to feel as if she is the only one working at a high level, the only one who has the knowledge and the skills and the capacity, the only one with the work ethic that will see it to the finish line. She should not feel like she's the only one that can do a certain job or a certain thing. And this is in the home, outside of the home, right? Anywhere a Black woman is, she should have the privilege of comfort and ease. But it's almost as if we don't think we can do it because the balls don't get dropped somewhere.
You're right.
And I'm here to say, sister girl, girlfriend, if the ball gets dropped, let it get dropped. You know what I mean? At some point, society has to learn. The folks that we are in relationship with have to learn. Like, I don't have to always ask for this woman to go outside of her scope to be excellent all the time. It's almost like everyone else has the opportunity and the privilege to not be excellent all day, every day.
Say that one more time,
It is
literally.
almost as if the entire world has the privilege of not being excellent and on point 24/7. The only person that doesn't is the Black woman.
Wow.
Because we are up at night. Our minds can't rest because we are already thinking days ahead. How do I make sure these kids are okay? How do I make sure my husband feels supported? How do I make sure that I'm doing my best at my job? How do I make sure I'm holding this thing together with duct tape and sticky glue, right? Like you are literally up at night thinking, planning, dreaming, praying days ahead in advance, and you don't even get the sleep you deserve because your wheels are constantly in motion. And that in and of itself is a grief, is a burden that we carry that we can't even rest, that our minds and our hearts can't get the rest that we deserve. So society needs to fall back a little bit, in my opinion. And I feel like once folks realize that they can ask someone else to do it, then maybe they will stop asking, get somebody else to do it.
Yes, that's so good because it kinda directly ties into the boundaries that you were just
Mhm,
talking about
mhm.
before. And one thing that I had thought of when you were talking was I feel like as I process grief and as I've come a little bit further along, I've been able to create more boundaries. I
Yeah,
think when we're unhealthy, I think that's when we're more apt to let whatever go. And I feel like I need to be here for do a little bit of people pleasing, I feel like I need to be here for everything and everybody and say
mhm.
yes to everything. And kind of like your heart, I feel like as grievers, our hearts too are like, I really do. I care. I want to be here and I want to do that. But when we get healthier, I feel like we're able to be like, okay, somebody else can truly take care of that.
Agreed.
We
You know better, you do better.
that is
And a
true.
lot of knowing better is just process, it's time.
That's good.
So, it's not that you don't want to take care of yourself, but it's almost as if grief sometimes holds us hostage. And when we don't know how to interact with our grief, when we don't know that we get to control and we get to choose, then we just kind of allow grief to run ramshack in our life, you
Yeah.
know? And so we do all the thing thinking, well, this is what's expected of me. And a lot of times it is expected of us. We just go along with it and we
Yeah.
just say yes. And because maybe there's a little bit of insecurity because we think, well, it's the if I don't do it, who's going to do it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe we need to do things we
Mhm.
feel useful, or maybe we even need to do things to distract ourselves from our grief, but we don't need to distract ourselves from our grief.
Right.
Grief is it's like, when people talk about, well, pain is an indication that you've been hurt. Well, grief is an indication of great love, right? We don't need to distract ourselves or get rid of it or, dismiss it, right? This is who we are. This is a part.
Yeah. I love that so much. I had a thought when you were mentioning that. Yeah, we'll see if it'll circle back.
Mhm, mhm.
So how can we as a collective start embracing a fuller spectrum of experiences for Black women? Like one that allows us to have that more of that balance of being vulnerable, getting rest, experiencing Black joy.
Mhm,
How can,
mhm.
what do you think that we can kind of, and I guess you kind of answered that somewhat, but we can still kind of chat through it.
Yeah. One of the things I'm hearing in my head as you ask that question is intentionality.
Mm.
We have to be accountable for our sisters. If we see our sisters doing too much, right? If we see our sister burning the candle at both ends, if we see that our sister is literally overwhelmed and cannot seem to just rest, we have to be intentional with each other. Because one of the things that I do understand is that, we can't expect other folks to do more for us than we do for ourselves.
That's the truth.
With that said, you know, as a collective of Black women, to be intentional about protecting our sisters and protecting space for them to not work themselves into an early grave. I have a girlfriend who says all the time, live your best life, right? She says, you know, at the end of the day, you're going to be in that casket. And all those people you were working yourself so hard for, going to look over that casket and be like, She shouldn't have worked herself so hard.
Look at that.
You understand?
Yeah.
And when she said that to me, it was so profound because I'm thinking to myself, well, if I just do this one more thing, if I just say yes to this one more thing, if I just, put my needs aside for a little bit longer and still do da 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 da. She said, look at how many, because I mean, we can track this, right?
Yeah, we can
2024
now.
and 2023, we saw several high achieving, high powered Black women in higher education.
Yes.
They either lost their lives
Yeah.
or they quit.
Yeah.
We look at those job postings.
Mhm.
Those job postings was on the internet within 24 hours. You understand? Because the thing is, when you work yourself and work yourself and work yourself, what value do you bring with that? And it's not to say that you don't do your best and all that, because, we're going to do our best regardless.
Yeah, yeah.
But working yourself into an early grave does no one any good.
Right.
And like my friend said, they're going to be standing over your casket saying, she shouldn't have worked herself so hard.
It's true.
As a collective, we can be the ones to say, sis, pause. Pause, pause, pause. Because at the end of the day, if something should happen to you, they're going to put your job on Indeed tomorrow.
It's like you are speaking 100% true, and I love what you said about just being intentional and being protective of our sisters. I think I had shared a post, somebody else post, about, this is not the year to be booked and busy. This is the year to be rested and paid. This is
Listen,
because it's like, because, there's a hustle culture. And you
and
just think about Black women plus hustle culture. Like, what in the world? This is crazy.
we are breaking our bodies down.
Our bodies down, because we already feel, and for good reason, we have to outwork, outrun, hustle, out, fill in the blank over everyone else. So it's a challenge.
It is a challenge because we've been raised with that mentality, right? We have to do twice as much to get half the recognition,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That feeds into that superwoman, strong Black woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
We know that there is, this insidious psychology behind it. But how do we interrupt that pattern? How do we allow ourselves the rest that we deserve? How do we lean into peace? And I think sometimes peace gets a negative connotation and rest gets a negative connotation because people are like, oh, well, you just want to be lazy. You just want to sit on your couch and eat bonbons. But guess what? What if sitting on my couch and eating bonbons is the best thing for me in that moment?
Right.
I protected my peace.
Right.
We should have regular rhythms of rest, regular rhythms of checking in with ourselves, regular rhythms of sitting with the grief and the things that we have to navigate every day.
Yeah.
We should do that on a normal, regular basis. If rest was a reward, then we wouldn't have the whole Sabbath day in creation where God said it was good.
Yes.
That was not a reward.
No.
God sat back and said, look at what I did.
Yeah.
And we should have those regular seasons of sitting back and saying, look how far I've come. If I don't do another thing for the rest of my life, I have already done enough.
Ooh, what? Yes. Yes.
We don't do that regularly.
We really don't.
So that's what we have to do as a collective. We have to be intentional in creating that space for our sisters and reciprocating, right? Asking our sisters to do it for us. When you see me out in these streets ripping and running, please tap me on the shoulder and say, man, go sit there.
Which is funny because when you're talking about it, it's like my blood sister, like my only sister, had living left. She had reached out to me last year during a really busy season. She was like, "Girl, if you don't go sit your tail down somewhere,
Sad ass.
I was like, if she telling me that I need to,
Right. You know you're doing too much.
you is doing too much." So let me I've got to bring us to a close. The conversation is just so good. Oh my gosh. Let me see. Oh, let me hit this one and then I'll
Mhm.
bring you to a close for you to
Yeah.
give us a word of encouragement. Do you think there's a way to honor both the resilience of Black women while also dismantling the pressure of the strong Black woman label?
Ooh, I do.
You good. You can just start.
Okay, yes, I think there is a way to honor that strength, that inner drive, that resilience, that God given that Black women have. There's a way to honor that without running yourself raggedy. And I think one of the ways we can do that is to really connect with God and connect with God in a way that allows ourselves to lean into his goodness, to take off our work gloves, right? Because there is always a point where we get to decide, am I going to do God's job or I'm going to let him do it himself? And some of what we engage in when it comes to hustle culture and, this overwhelm, some of that is because we just don't trust God to do his job.
Mhm.
Okay. And we can honor the gift that God has given us in being who we are, but also relying on his strength, relying on his capability, relying on his omniscience and omnipotence, right? Because we can't be everywhere at all the time. And when we realize that we are not God, when we allow ourselves to really be cared for and loved by Him, we can rest, we can enjoy what life has to offer us. We can do that in a way that both speaks to the glory of who we are as Black women, as a creation of God, and let him do his job.
Mm.
And I think that that is a critical key, right? Being in relationship with God, accepting that it is not our job to do all the things, to show up for all the people. We can only do so much with our human hands.
Mhm.
Well, let God be God. Let him do his job. Let him do it well, right?
Yeah.
And rest with it. My word for this year is satisfied. And I'm telling you, at first I was like, what does that mean? But I'm starting to hear God say, I have given you everything you need, and I need you to be satisfied with what's already in your hand. This is the year of doing less. We're not striving for more, satisfied. What have I already given to you? What have I already placed inside of you that you can be satisfied with that thing? And anything extra, anything beyond that, that's my job. Your job is just to sit there and be satisfied, but also to let me be the one that satisfies you. Not the work, not the income, not the kids, not the husband, not the boyfriend. Let me be the one to satisfy because you're spinning your wheels, you're trying so hard. You're trying to juggle all of these things on top of being a Black woman in America, which is its own singular grief by itself, okay? Let God be God. Lean into him and his perfect work and allow him to do the thing. But until then, what your sister say?
Oh my gosh, that was so beautiful. So now I'm gonna ask you to leave us with a word of encouragement. It's
Yes,
all been so encouraging, but give us some final thoughts, words of encouragement.
absolutely. I would love to. My sisters, my friends, all of you who are here listening with us today, please know and please remember.
Just
Please know that you have a limited capacity, not because you are not good at what you do, not because you have some moral flaw, but It's a capacity, it's a gift. It is a gift because God does not want us to go beyond that boundary. It's a gift because once you understand how to live within that space, within those boundaries, that's when the good life starts. Because you're not going to run more, do more, be more. You are going to allow the rest and the peace of God to come over you, to infiltrate all the parts of your life where you have not had rest, where you have not had sleep, where you've not had peace. When you recognize that your capacity is a gift, you will not run over it. You will not treat it as something you can cast to the side. As you start to lean into that boundary, you will see the goodness of God in the land of the living. When you learn to live within the capacity that God has given you, there's a sense of confidence that you can have. There's a sense of peace that will accompany that because I don't have to go past this limit. This is my limit for a reason. This is the limit where I say, you know what? I have done enough and I cannot go any further. So that is a blessing to you. That is a gift to you. Don't look at it as something, that is holding you back. It is it is there to protect you, not to harm you. So I hope that that has been helpful and I hope that encourages you as you move forward in your life and you are trying to get some sense of normalcy and balance and you're trying to get rid of the chaos. Don't over push or overthrow or go past your capacity. It is a gift.
That was huge. That was so good. I almost had to start doing like a church rock.
So let the church wait.
That's so good. Well, I am personally so encouraged by you and the work that you do and your voice. And for one, your voice is just so soothing. Anyways,
Oh, please
I
you.
think I need to read my book.
Listen. Hey. Hey.
But I just thank you. I love and appreciate you. So please share with the audience where they can connect with you, find your resources,
Yeah.
hire you,
All the
all
things.
things.
Yes, yes, yes. So as you can see on screen, I go by the PhD Mama. I humbly steward a grief and loss community called It's All Grief to Me. So you can find me at It's All Grief to Me or the PhD Mama or my name, Quantrilla Ard. And on Instagram, my personal account is QuaniBoo, but you can find me under any of those names. And one page typically will tell you how to get to the others. But I love making new friends. I love interacting with folks online and just sharing my heart with them. So please come join me on all the spaces and places.
Yeah. Please do. I know you will find so much hope, so much inspiration, encouragement in all of her spaces. So please connect with her. I thank you so much again for
So,
sitting with me. It's been such a joy.
absolutely.